introduction, sir. I know you live here and own it, but I missed your name. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, my name's Bill. Bill Tall. Two short-lived words, but they developed a image called Farmer Bill. It happened. I wear the same clothes everywhere I go. I got my T-shirt, my yellow suspenders, my jeans, because images are great. And actually, I had a lady come in the other day. It was one of my farmer students. I taught how to garden, and she said to my employees, they couldn't understand, "I'm looking for a farmer." What? Looking for a farmer? And then I got on the radio. I said, "Are they looking for me?" So that's my name. Been doing this since 1972. I graduated Madison High School in '78. I had a dream. I had $200, and 90% of the stuff wasn't here. But I've always moved around on the property. And it just takes time. And so I've always lived here ever since I was 18. Got out of the house. I lived in a little trailer, travel trailer. And my dad built this building, and my parents wanted me out of the trailer, so I ended up living in that for a little bit. Got married, lived in a mobile home for 15 years. But my dad told me that there's nothing for free in this world. So he charged me rent from when I graduated high school in '74 till 1999. But little did I know he put all that money away in a special savings account. And that's how that house got built.
Wow.
It's just, life has just been great. And I really believe in karma. And I really believe that the most important thing in life is to touch as many people as you can and help them and leave the world a better place than they came. It's been a great life. So when I got a lot of advice from a lot of other older nurserymen, I always look at advice as something to gain from, not people wanting to get in my business. They just give me ideas, advice, and that way you can take it or leave it, but at least you're getting input, you know. And there's two nursery people that I have in mind. One was a guy named Hal Simpson. An older gentleman used to own Simpson's Garden Town in Hamul, and then when he passed, his nephew, his niece, and her husband took over, and all of a sudden, third generation is not there, and so it's going to be developed. That's generally what happens in the nursery industry. And his word of advice was, you'll never get rich owning or working in a nursery until you sell your property. So I have an acre and a half here, but that's not going to happen because my son, who's up at the counter right now, is next generation. So we're looking at a second generation, and possibly a third generation, depending on what I get as far as grandkids go. So I keep my fingers crossed because Hunter's Nursery is now, the original owners is celebrating their 100th year next year. And she's 102. She didn't own it at the time, but
She opened it when she was 2 years old.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Or probably her grandparents opened it when she was 2 years old, and so they have their. She has her granddaughter working there now, so it looks like it'll continue on. But you know, it's interesting because I had a bunch of high school kids come in, and they were doing a video on the nursery, and then one of the young ladies interviewed me at the end, and one of the questions I remember her asking was, so why should we be supporting small business? And I looked at her and I said, because someday you're not going to have a choice of anything. You go anywhere, it's all reproduction of what somebody else has. There's no new, there's no exciting things. It's the same old stuff because it sells. Now, unfortunately, my industry, all the growers, all the suppliers are streamlining too to help provide for the larger stores, and so they've limited what we got too, and that's why propagation, I don't know if you guys are studying that, but propagation is important. But the nomenclature is interesting of the industry because every year it changes a little, you know, and so you got to keep up on what we used to call something isn't what's called now. Something's changed because of it has to do with the flower and the parts of flower. It gets pretty technical, but there's always these geniuses that are in discussion about, well, this looks more in this family, this looks more in this family, you know. And so the other thing neat about propagation is you can reproduce what you already have, or you can do some cross-pollinating. You can do some finding things that are a little bit different, and Mother Nature does that. So years ago, the word hybridization was a bad term. Nobody wanted man to hybridize. You know, they wanted everything to be natural. Well, Mother Nature hybridizes all the time. So that's not a problem as far as what's coming on now with all this genetic stuff and all, which I always look at, you fool with Mother Nature in a weird way, you're going to get a problem later on. Just like when they built nuclear plants. Do you ever figure they would figure out how to get rid of the waste before they built the plant? No, now we're burying this stuff. You know, won't get deep into that. So anyway, so I think the important thing of getting into it, if you're deciding to get into the nursery industry, is to, you've got to love it, you got to breathe it, eat with it, drink with it, and your loving it will be the addition to, unfortunately, I got to say, is one of the lower paying jobs. You know, it's and it's in all the different, I've checked with the different large stores and stuff like that, but your knowledge and being able to come to work and enjoying every day of it, there's a lot to do with our life nowadays. You know, it's so neat for me, because people say, how can you stand living and work? That's because I love what I do. And I'm so lucky that I'm able to have a house here in the middle of the nursery and have my business here. And that was because my parents had the foresight of buying property. And when I was a kid at 18, my dad said never put money in the bank. So I bought that property back there for $5,000 and it was broke me. You know. So anyways, so the history of the nursery industry is I couldn't go to a 4-year college because I already had my business going. So it was a matter of somebody asking me a question and me saying, I don't know, but I'll find out. And then I would call people in the irrigation industry and this and that to find out the answers to it. And that's how a continuing education goes with it. I tell my employees when they start out, I said, you can probably start out cleaning bottles in the shop, dusting them. Why is that? So that you know the product you're selling. You know, we try, and we've always have kept the nursery organic. We have a lot of organic ways of doing things. They're somewhat limited as far as they do everything, but it's getting there. And it was interesting when the whole organic craze, it was in the 60s and 70s, but it was more for the hippie generation. Well, now people are realizing that you can do something and not use these type of materials. And I've never used anything other than organics on this property. And sometimes it takes a little longer. But the fact is you have clean, pure things to work with and a lot healthier to work with. So that's how the nursery's developed. Being in a business is really great if you love it. If you don't, there's a dark side to any business, and this one has a huge dark side. And the sad thing about the dark side of a business, especially like ours, is that government and stuff doesn't realize that they really don't support small businesses. So we're here trying to make ends meet, and we're totally different. You know, we're not asking to build a structure, we're actually put a greenhouse up. You know, we're not asking for this. I asked to have farm animals there. You know, and so it's just something that you gotta just be able to work around business, and I've always felt it's not illegal till you get caught. And so I had chickens and goats here. I had a horse 30 years ago here, and it wasn't legal, but they weren't as needing of revenue and stuff and that type of thing to go after all this stuff. And when I was young, to build something, they would give you stuff. You could draw your own plans, you could build your own house, you could do all this. Now it's all, go see an engineer, I can't help you. Go see an engineer, I can't help you. So in our industry, the problem is there's not a lot of people that are looking for people like us to mentor, because our knowledge, like any industry, like the carpenters or wood, you know, all these different industries, the older people are passing on. And who do we leave this stuff to? Who do we leave this stuff to that you can't learn in a classroom setting? You know? And then our end of it is, who do you find that loves this, that doesn't mind working in a place like this, but like I said, it's not the highest paying job in the world. But if you're willing to learn, and that's where your values should go. You know, there's some nurseries that are opening, but they're all in East County. Nobody can afford the property. You know, but there's that opportunity. So one thing I've found in life with everything that I've done here is anytime you think of anything that you do as far as owning a business or working for a place, you have to not have a negative about it. If you have a negative, you're going to fail. You know, in relationships. I was married for 20 years and been looking for 17 years because one of us would start getting a negative about the other person. I said, you know, we can't solve this. This just isn't going to work. And I just got married 3 months ago to a gal, and we don't have negatives in our life. I mean, she understands me. I'm not a workaholic. I just love what I do. So anyway, I was just talking to a teacher a while ago, is we have the most difficult time here getting employees. Honest to God. People think I want to work at this nursery because I can pick the flowers and all that. Well, no, you got to shovel the shit out of the barn. You got to weed. You got to mix soil. You got to do all the stuff that entails the pretty stuff, you know. You know. And you got to know also what they don't teach in school is how to treat people, how to deal with a customer, how to keep customers from getting irate, how to work with them so that they are happy when they leave. But you're not going to please everybody, so you can't take it personal. You know? So my staff right now has we have 14 people that work here. I know, it's a lot of employees. But we have such a uniqueness about it. We teach everything from beekeeping to composting to all this stuff, bonsai work and all this. And so that's why we have such a large staff, because everybody's developed an area that they're really good at. We have 2 propagators, you know, we could use a third. But propagation also, it's all about getting stuff going and making costs affordable. You know, we even bag our own materials here. Bagging our own materials, we pay one of our employees a piece of it. Why? The harder they work, the more money you make. You know, and one of my employees used to be able to bag 200 bags a day at 80 cents a bag. That was their take-home pay. You know, after taxes and all that. So they could do this. I mean, they were on their own. They didn't have radio contact. They just bagged. And now, and he came to us as a student on a work kind of program for the high schools, and he's been with us now 5 or 6 years. He does all our chicken feed ordering. He's working into being one of our top employees. Obviously, they're all top employees, but he's one that's wanting to learn things, wanting to add stuff to his list of what to do. And yet, everything that everybody does here, I've done. I make sure I've done it. Because I am not a boss that will tell you to do something. I do get my hands dirty. Because a boss should teach by example, not by telling people what to do. I learned that. I had a job for 6 months of my life working for SeaWorld, and I had to get out of there. This was back when, in my day, and the bosses were that, you know, pile of trash in the park, you know, out in the patio area. I'm got a sink full of dishes. Bill, there's a handful of trash on that table. Don't forget to pick it up when you leave. And I was watching it. I'm going, this isn't right. And so I picked the trash up and I put it on my immediate boss's desk. And I said, Charlie, that's my 2-week notice. What? I explained it to her. You know, yeah, I'm a kid, but not all of us want to be treated like kids. Yes, you had to wear a certain dress outfit, and I went along with those things. And I would work all I could. Why? Because to get ahead in life, you got to do without in life. And this is a 7-day-a-week thing for me for a long time. Even now, I can't seem to stop. But, you know, if you take, for instance, trying to get ahead in life, and you go out to dinner 3 times a week, that's a huge amount of money, you know? Especially nowadays, you look at it going. So my 3 hobbies are gardening, cooking, and woodworking. And my kitchen is 400 square feet. This house became a miracle to have. I've got a 1,500 square foot woodworking shop, and I got an 1.5 acre garden. And I'm constantly going around, just kind of nipping here and nipping there and seeing this needs to be trimmed out and helping with the bonsai area because I just enjoy this. I enjoy giving information too. It's interesting, about a year ago I had a doctor dealing with cancer. She goes, what happens if you only had 2 years to live though? Where would you go? What's your bucket list? And I said, to clean up my word shop and make some stuff and to be behind the counter. I said, I have no other urges in life. Because it's been my life, you know. And look what I've created from $200, when I was a kid. You know, so this is what I'm saying is it's a great career to get in the horticulture world. But most people look into the landscaping or the landscape technology, the draft, you know, the design work and that kind of stuff. But you know, so many times I've gone out and people that have graduated from the program have employees and they're not on the job and planting trees and stuff, they're just not doing it right. It's according to my way of learning. And so this place across the street, they went out for bid. The contractor did not buy the plants from us at all, which I would have liked to have a chance to bid on it. Okay. But I have to maintain it for the next 5 years. My agreement with the city is my water, my labor, and everything to maintain it until they get money in the city coffers to have a crew come out. And I'm excited about that because the first 5 years of planting something, that's when it develops. Trimming trees, you're structuring your trees. The first 5 years are the most important thing to get the heads up, to make sure the crotches are the right angles, make sure there's no intercroaching branches, make sure the roots develop properly. If you got weeds, I have this product called corn gluten. Anybody ever heard of corn gluten? Okay, so that's because I really keep my ears open. So corn gluten is a byproduct of the corn industry. That actually we refined it down to coming from organically grown corn, which is cool. And what it is, it's a seed prohibitor. For every 8 months you put it down, it'll keep seeds from growing. So obviously you plant your plants, your seeds, you let them come up, then you put the stuff down. But it's got 7% nitrogen, and it acidifies the soil. And so I gave them a pound of this to use on their lawn out there to keep the weeds out and see how it goes. And 2 days later they called, we can't use this stuff. I said, why? Well, because there's rats all over the place now. Corn, rats. So then I find a product, I'm just farting around, it's called Rad-X. Read the ingredients on it. Sodium and corn gluten. So these rats are eating this stuff, swelling up inside, not having anything to eat, so it's actually killing the rats with food. You know. So this is the fun part of the industry, is seeing this stuff and studying it, saying, you know, this would be a good product to have. Our advertising is done by my daughters. Did anybody go on the internet and look at our website before they came here? It's good. I've not had a single person come here for an interview that's even looked at our website. Or just walking around the nursery for a day or so, just looking and seeing what we do. Just, I mean, if I was going to go to a job, I'd walk around and see what these employees were doing, you know, what their methods were, you know, so you know what you're getting involved with. We always welcome internships if it's through the college, because we can't take volunteers because we're not a nonprofit. But with internships comes with, you know, they cover the workman's comp and all that for us, so we don't have to have that as additional burden. But internships are extremely important to us. It's really important for us as a nursery industry, and you guys know that there's a scholarship at your college that was set up by me and some older nursery people. It took us almost 20 years to get it going. Ours is a strong field because you're not going to make a landscape architect's salary. And so people generally go where the money is instead of where the joy is. But you know, I just think at this stage in my life, I'm glad I went where the joy was, because when you enjoy your work, you're taking care of your health. But anyway, so as far as my education goes, it was a junior college, and I'm very, very happy to say that you can learn a lot. And my son needs to take some classes. He says, well, Dad, how about if you get somebody in there like to tutor me? I said, the trick to that is you're in a class with other people that have their own questions that you might learn from a question you didn't even think of asking. You meet people. You do all this stuff. I went about 10 years ago, I went and I took a class at Southwestern. It was taught by Meredith Sinclair, and it was Principles of Plant Growth. They still offer that class. That is the best class you can ever take of all the classes. Not to knock Plant ID, but that explains so much because Mother Nature is very logical. Everything we do is logical. I do not teach a gardening 101 class. I change it to why we do this class. You know, because knowing why we do something in our industry or with plant material will significantly gain the idea, yes, this should be done. You know. So anyway, so I says, when you get time, I'd like you to at least take that course, if not a couple others. He, at this point in life, doesn't want to be a plants person, but he's gaining a lot of knowledge. I listen to the way he answers stuff just from hanging around me, and my former wife was the same way. She gained a lot of knowledge by working here. And when we got divorced, she got a job at Armstrong, like that, because we were in the industry. And she was an owner of an independent nursery, and the person she liked, so it's all fine by me. He had a steady job, 9 to 5, had benefits, all this kind of stuff. I don't, and I think she realized after the year that she left, we opened the restaurant, we had a nursery, we were building a house, and we had 3 teenage kids. I think I pushed it a little too hard. But afterwards, it all just evened out. So I just got married 3 months ago, and she understands me. I says, you got to understand me because I'm just a tough person to live with. As far as my lifestyle, it's 6 in the morning, sometimes 10, 11 at night. But not that I don't take vacations. Actually, I do it a little more now because the business is built to almost where I want it to be. And where I'd like the nursery to be someday is I'd like it to be known throughout the world, at least throughout the United States, and for one reason only. If I can get that notoriety and get the Tourism Bureau to actually notice City Heights. Anybody live in City Heights? Okay. Notice that City Heights has something very special no other place in the country has. 47 different languages spoken here. The diversity is fantastic. So there's 47 different countries here that grow different stuff. So we've learned to start propagating stuff that each one of these ethnic groups have. So what I want to do is I want to draw people to this neighborhood and then try to talk the small businesses into staying in business, but bring their business up to par, have a website, and take the bars off the front of your place, Any questions?
I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to stop and talk with us. We love this place, and you've helped our program for almost a generation now, pretty much, and that's not going away.
What more could you ask for? Success is not in what you own. Success is in what you've done in life that you can look back on and say, a lot of people delegate you for a lot of things. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you very much.